Hello everyone, so we're back with our series of branding yourself, right? We've started a new series last week where we started speaking about how you can make yourself a good brand. The importance, actually, last week we spoke about the importance of making yourself a good brand. And today we're going to show you practical things that you can do to make yourself this good brand, right? And one of the things that stands out about who you are, it's not the first thing that stands out, but it's the thing that impacts the most. It's how you speak, right? So the way that you present yourselves in interviews, even in situations where you
normal conversation,
exactly, normal conversation, playful situations, how you speak says a lot about who you are. And what we see commonly happening now is we see people who are intellectuals, but they're not branding themselves as intellectuals because they do not speak as intellectuals. And when they go into an interview, they the way that they come across does not instill trust in the interviewers to hire them.
Especially youths, Moti. You see sometimes. We had a series before here, very intelligent people. They are studying hard, learning so many things. And sometimes when we speak to them, it's like they throw their good English in the bin while here we are struggling to speak. They throw their English in the bin and they start just adding slangs and they change the order of things just because outside people do that, around people do that. So they don't realize that they are selling themselves in a negative way.
Yeah, actually, Hakel, I'm going to defend members of our panel because I was really impressed by the members of our panel. But we're just using an example of people in a similar situation, not necessarily referring to them, right? So we're not offending you, we're not talking about you. Because I was impressed by how you came across, and that's actually something that I commented about. But yeah, we see people similarly who have just come out of university and they are now looking for work, which was the article that inspired us to do this this series. Now they come into an interview situation, and the minute that they walk in and they open their mouth, what they're saying does not instill confidence. They don't make themselves sellable. And what are we talking about? We're talking about slang. Young people are stuck to slang. I mean, whichever part of the world that you're in, there's always slang that's relevant to your region, right? Here in England, we have Cockney English, right? I'm so offended by it. Sorry, I really am. That I haven't even memorized it. I haven't even, spent time memorizing it. But I'm going to try and give examples. Like, for example, you walk in an interview and they ask you, so how are you? I don't know what question they may ask, but then you start answering, yeah, man, in it. Life is tough nowadays, in it. Do you have some water? May I use your computer? So you start speaking in that way. Someone who takes their company seriously is not going to be convinced to buy you, because they're going to think, this is someone who has to represent my name. This is someone who has to represent my brand that I've worked hard. So I can't trust that this person will represent my brand the way that I want. And I've argued with young people about this. And you know what the argument they always tell me is? They always tell me, no, we just do it amongst ourselves. But when we go to an interview or we are around a certain situation, we're not like this. But that's not true. Because habit sticks. And many times, unconditionally or without wanting to, you end up adopting to what you're used to. So if you make yourself used to speaking in one way, especially when you're nervous, when you're nervous, you tend to go, it's common. When you're nervous, you go for what you're used to. So in an interview, you don't have the control in your mind to kind of differentiate and say, okay, I'm not going to speak in the way that I'm used to. I'm going to speak in a different way because I'm in a different environment. When you're nervous, you're going to tend to go for what you're used to.
That's true. You made me remind that when I was small, I used to speak very loud. And then I used to think like this, no, but when I am somewhere else, I can't do that. I can't. But as you said, it's natural because you are used to it. So without realizing, there I was speaking very loud again. It's the same with slangs. As you are used to speaking that way every single day, It's not because you are in a different environment inside of a room that you're going to remember to speak proper English. You're just going to go to what you are used to.
Exactly.
That's why you should start already practicing the good English you already know. Sometimes your friends can even mock, sometimes youths, they're like, why you are speaking like that? But you can force yourself to memorize, to remember, to be careful with the way you speak. Sometimes people speak very fast. Sometimes it's only them speaking, they don't allow anyone else to speak. So the way you speak, how you speak, speaks a lot about you.
And I'm sure you're wondering now, if I'm so used to being this way, I'm so used to, you know, speaking in Cockney English, how do I change my habits? What do I do? We're going to go for a break, and when we come back from our break, we're going to give you practical tips on how you can start marketing yourself and changing the way that you speak in order to brand yourself properly. All right? So after the break, we'll be back with tips to market yourself. Hello, we're back, and we're discussing branding yourself, and today we're focusing more on your speech, on how you speak and how you communicate, right? On communication in general. And we were talking before the break about the importance of making something a habit in order for it to stick. So if you're someone who wants to start avoiding using slang, you have to make it into a habit, right? You have to make sure that's your normal way of speaking. And how can someone make 10 speaking well into a habit? What can they do? Let me rephrase. What can they do to start building the habit of speaking well?
Usually, Moti, they speak like that because they're friends. The environment where they are speaks in that way. People speak in that way. So I believe what you can start doing is to first notice the mistakes you usually do. Notice the words that you usually change just to adapt a slang. You add a slang into it. And you start removing from it. Maybe speaking slowly, thinking more. As you said as well about reading. When you read proper, how do you say? When you read these kind of books, when you watch movies that has a good quality of English, you can start learning different ways of speaking. And little by little, you're gonna come out of that environment and you're gonna be putting yourself in another level, right? And you're gonna start learning new words that you can exchange from those slangs.
Yeah, so the idea is for you to build habit, right? For you to start creating that habit, establishing that habit. And as you've said, you establish it through exposing yourself to new ideas, to new ways of speaking. I will tell you, I learned Portuguese, but I didn't learn Portuguese in a classroom. I learned Portuguese actually through exposure. And one of the things that made it stick in my mind was that I was constantly listening to it. So I was always in an environment where I was listening to people speak Portuguese, and unaware, I was gaining a certain understanding of the language. So it's the same with you. When you're someone who says, I'm really, really tired of speaking in slang, or I'm not tired of it, but I realize that I need to start changing my habit of speaking in slang. So you cannot be in an environment where slang is always spoken. So you have to put yourself in an environment where people speak differently, where they speak the way that you want to start speaking. So if you want to speak in corporate language, you have to start exposing yourself to corporate language. You have to start listening to people deliver speeches. So go on YouTube. There's a lot you can find on YouTube, actually. There's a lot that you can find in terms of recorded meetings, recorded conferences that you can start listening to. And the more you listen to them, unaware, you're going to start picking up that vocabulary. It's going to start sticking in your mind. Your brain is going to start recording it, and then you start using it as well. So it's not only important to absorb, but you have to put yourself in a situation where you're always practicing. So one of the things is for you, for example, to go in front of a mirror. So not necessarily just listen, but deliver what you've just heard. So pretend, for example, that you're in a room full of people and you have to deliver a speech to that person, to those people. Record it, so you can listen back and be critical of yourself. So you see, it takes work. It's not just going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen automatically. Okay, I've gone to sleep being someone used to speaking slang, and I'm just going to wake up in the morning and go into a corporate environment and deliver myself in a corporate way. It's not going to happen. It has to be something that you're constantly exposing yourself to, constantly conditioning yourself to, so that you may be able to deliver when the time comes, right?
And these will bring uniqueness to your life, because maybe your friends don't speak in this way, the environment you are, don't live in this way, but you're gonna become different. You're gonna become an influence to those people.
Exactly.
So don't follow the crowd. If everyone around speaking slangs, you don't have to follow all of them.
Yeah.
I remember that I grew up in a different environment. When I start changing my mindset, many people laugh at me. Many people ask, why you are doing this? Why you are doing that? Why are you changing this way? Why you are behaving that way? Because I noticed that was better for me.
Yeah.
So sometimes many people don't change much because they are a
peer
bit
pressure.
Yeah, and they feel like afraid, they feel uncomfortable of being the different one. But this is what's gonna make their lives improve.
I experienced the same thing as you, Raquel. I remember, at school, I think it came from my upbringing. My mom just refused, was absolutely adamant that I was someone who spoke very well, and she wouldn't encourage me. Every time that I would say something that was in slang or whatever, speak properly. So even my teachers at school as well. So I kind of used to be different among my friends who I didn't even know the slang. Sometimes they would speak and I was like, what does that mean? I would be out, and I remember I got branded as a snob. I got branded as someone who, you're so posh, you're too posh, you're a snob. But you see, it became a brand. Even though I was not doing it necessarily, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to come across that way. But that's how they bought me, because that's how I sold myself. So everyone was like, oh, she thinks she's posh. Oh, this one is too proud. Oh, this one is like, too kind of like, I don't know. I can't even remember the expressions that they used to use at the time. So you see, when you may be different, but you're being true to your brand. So even though your friends may kind of mock you, your friends may make fun of you, your friends may think that you're trying to kind of outshine them, they may feel intimidated by you. Yes, there's a price to pay, but you are being true to your brand. And when the time comes for people to buy you, they will feel the trust that they need to, they will have trust to buy you, right?
Yeah. This requires boldness, Marty, because when you go, against everyone's thoughts, ideas, behaviors, this requires boldness from you. So you have to have a strong mind. You cannot just do things because people around are doing. You have to create your own brand. These big brands we know nowadays, they were not there all the time. They were created. So sometimes I'm sure many of them were criticized.
Yes, definitely.
Many of them people came and said, no, this is not gonna work.
Yes.
But they trusted in themselves. So first you have to believe in yourself, because if you expect people around to believe in what you are doing first, it will not work.
Yes.
But if you believe in what you are doing, you are bold, you become bold, you take bold steps and you start working on it. I'm sure that at the end of this year of 2016, you're gonna be a different person.
Exactly, and not only will you be different, but you will be an influence, right? You will be someone who influences, you will be someone who attracts attention, You will be someone who stands out. So that's what you need to think about. That needs to be your focus. Instead of, just choosing comfort. I speak slang because it's comfortable. I speak slang because I don't have to deal with my friends speaking to me and criticizing me. I don't have to deal with the peer pressure. It is comfortable, but you think globally, you think outside of the box, and you kind of project to the future. Well, it may be easy now, but it's going to harm me in the future in ways that I don't want to be harmed. So I'd rather deal with the peer pressure than lose opportunities in the future. I'd rather deal with the peer pressure than not be able to find work after investing 4 years of my life in an education, because I don't want to deal with peer pressure, right? So think about your brand and be true to your brand. It will take work, it will take dedication, it will take sometimes rejection and isolation, but if you are true to it, it will bring you results, okay? And we've come to the end of today's program, and next week we're going to be bringing you one more tip of how you can brand yourself. So today we spoke about branding yourself in the way that you speak. Next week we're going to bring you a different way of branding yourself so you may become a complete brand. All right? So see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.